Okay, um, another set of comments before I get to the assignment. I know that several of you at some points over the course of time talked about these were really hard or difficult or challenging. That's good. I didn't necessarily mean for them to be opaque or vague or things like that. If they were difficult for that reason, I apologize. But what I really wanted was to set forth issues that I think are real, that might call out different levels of response from you, and that might make you think or might push you outside of uh, your comfort levels, not just comfort levels with the material, but your comfort levels in how to deal with certain parts of that. So again, it wasn't an academic exercise as really a more engaged, real world set of exercises. The GOEs can go either way. They can ask you to um, be very, very academic, or they can present you with a real life situation. I remember the one that I had to deal with in terms of worship had to do with planning some event around Palm Sunday. So that was a real life event. And boy, did I rack my brains. I worked really, really hard, came up with what I thought was absolutely spectacular intergenerational stuff, it was great. And they came back and they said, well, this is really good, but if you think about a choir and everybody else preparing for Easter, they're really going to want to do all of this for Palm Sunday. So it was uh, a real world example, but I sort of went overboard with it, and that's okay. That's okay. But it wasn't the academic kind of question that I also had. If you look at the GOE stuff, you'll see too that they'll probably limit you, or they most often limit you to the kinds of resources you have. So doing web research or things like that may not be part of what you'd be able to do. Anyway, all that said, this was meant to be an integrative exercise where you would bring a lot of things together, your experience, your own personal experience, the learning that you've had in your time at Iliff and in other places, as well as in the case of this class, anything that your Patronus may have been able to bring to bear. So it has been, like I say, an integrative experience, which I think is very typical of an Anglican way of looking at it. We don't just simply refer, well, the Westminster Confession says this, so this is what we're going to do. Yes, we have the prayer book, and it's a guide. Scripture, we have all of these things, but they aren't um, the one go-to piece that we can just sort of point at. So it is, as that last assignment really mentioned, it is our work in ministry, I think in general, but certainly in the Episcopal Church, is that of a bricoleur, is bringing everything together and seeing what new thing we can make out of it that still resonates with every place that we have been, everything that we have done in our history. So you've been informed by a lot and formed by a lot, and it's so your Patronus was part of that, and so were the Patronuses of all of your classmates. As I said to a number of you, I think in the last response to the last set of discussions, is that there's a whole lot of teaching and learning going on. You are teaching each other and learning from each other, and you've certainly been teaching me a lot as well in a lot of different ways. I want to conclude this piece here just by saying that I gave you a little bit of my history in the introductions. I was not born an Anglican. I came to the Episcopal Church after quite a bit of walking through various theological traditions. And I don't remember if I said this, and I'm not going to go back and look, but there was a point when I remember I was at a dinner with my mother and my dad and some family friends, and they were Roman Catholic. And I was quoting scripture to them because I was an eager young Bible college student. And we got in the car, and my mom said, "Well, where did you get all that stuff?" And I said, "Well, at school." And she said, "Well, it's fine if you believe what you believe, but just don't become too narrow." She doesn't remember telling me that. I've asked her several times, but it was a pivotal moment in my development, and so the Episcopal Church is a good home for me because we're not tied, as I said a minute ago, we're not tied to the Westminster Confession or the Augsburg Confession or those kinds of things. We have a generosity of spirit that lies at our core. Cranmer's genius in figuring out how to put together a book that the Puritans could use and the Catholics could use, that we have always sought to be the via media, the middle way. And so for me, this has been the home that has made so much sense. And when I'm talking with people about how I can do the work that I do, I'm very comfortable doing this as an Anglican, whereas I know some of my colleagues would be less so. And so for me, this expression of our Christian faith is in some respects more of an attitude. It's a way of being. I think we are formed as Anglicans as much as we are formed as Christians, and that has to do with an expansiveness of spirit. And so when I've crafted this class to talk about the different dreams, and I've wanted you to hold those gently as you've crafted your assignments, my hope is that was part of a way of encouraging you to recall that this is an attitude of gentleness, an attitude of hospitality, an attitude of holding other people's dreams as gently as you would have them hold yours. Now I know some of us are more apt to fit into the pastor role, some of us more apt to fit in the priest role, and some of you very clearly stated you are more apt to be in the prophet mode. And that's great. The church uses all of us. And I think that in any of those roles, holding these dreams gently will help us be more effective in our teaching, in our preaching, in our protesting, whatever it is. This has been a great privilege to be with you this quarter.